யாதும் உரே யாவரும் கேடீர்.
செம்மொழி வலையொலி யூடியூப் சேனல். இந்த சேனலின் மூலமாக, அந்த வலையொலியின் மூலமாக பல்வேறு தகவல்களை தினந்தோறும் நாங்கள் வழங்கி கொண்டிருக்கக்கூடிய அந்த நிலையில் முழுமையாக கண்டு பார்க்கலாம்.
This is a new historicist study of a poem by Paranar, which is found in Purananuru. New historicism has brought the two disciplines, literature and history, closer to each other than ever before. It is a critical method that situates a work of art in its historical context and at the same time breaks down the boundaries between artistic production and other kinds of social production, that is, between art and other historical traces, including just about anything from a royal utterance to a tract on hermaphrodites or a pamphlet on exorcism. New historicism is interested in the parallel reading of literary and non-literary texts, usually of the same historical period. All the textual traces of the past are read with the attention traditionally conferred only on literary texts. As there is no privileging of the literary in a new historicist study, literary and non-literary texts are given equal weight and constantly inform each other. It is therefore viewed as a combined interest in the textuality of history and the historicity of texts, entailing intensive close reading of non-literary texts. The great American critic Greenblatt is considered the founding father of New historicism, and because of his pioneering efforts, it spread from history to film studies. If in 1981 Paul the Man, Jacques Derrida and deconstruction dominated the world of literary theory, by 1985 the politics of deconstruction had to yield place to new historicism. Explaining is the critical practice, Greenblatt writes, "There is a defect I have made into a virtue. It is extremely hard for me to keep background things in the background, not just text but lives and incidents, things that seem like they are going to be ornamental, gargoyles or filigree, turn out to be, if not main pillars, at least flying buttresses that keep the building from falling apart." There are some vital differences between old and new historicisms. The old approach was merely interested in making use of historical data. To the old historicists like E.M.W. Tilliard, the author of the Elizabethan World Picture, the literary text was of primary importance, while the historical background was merely the setting and as such was of lesser worth. But the new historicists give equal importance to literary and non-literary texts and study them as parallel texts. New historicism is of the view that since historical events are irrevocably lost, what deserves our attention is history as represented and recorded in written documents, that is, history as a text. The historical events and attitudes now exist as writing, and this writing may be fruitfully subjected to the same type of close analysis as a literary text. New historicism accepts Derrida's opinion that there is nothing outside the text and that everything about the past is available to us only in the form of text. The French philosopher Foucault was another great influence on the new historicists, who are indebted to him for his notions about the power of the repressive state, which is all powerful and all seeing and maintains its surveillance by the power of its discursive practices. In the writings of Greenblatt and Louis Montrose, we come across striking examples of new historicism in practice. Whereas earlier Shakespeare criticism mystified Shakespeare, new historicism juxtaposes its place with other written texts such as penal, medical and colonial documents. A new historicist study of Jacobean theatre links the Jacobean plays closely with the political events of that period. A very illuminating and exciting lecture by Greenblatt undertakes a parallel study of Columbus's Diario, the great explorer's record of the events of his first voyage, and a 6th century account of St. Brendan's voyage to a mythical island, and reveals the complex impulse behind the Christian imperialism of the age of discovery. This brief analysis of the name and nature of new historicism will enable us to realize the urgency to use the critical practice to advantage in the Indian context. We have an amazingly rich cultural past and at least 10 ancient literatures which together cry for new historicist studies. For example, it was recently revealed that there is an unmistakable link between the stone inscriptions of an old temple in Anamalai near Pollachi and a poem in the Sangam classic Kurundogai. From the temple history, it is learnt that it was built in memory of a young maid who was sentenced to death by the chieftain Nannan because she ate a fruit from a forbidden mango tree as it came floating down the river in which she was bathing. The story is used as an exquisite simile of the Miltonic type by Paranar in a poem where a girl's mother is asked not to be as cruel-hearted as Nannan, who refused to listen to the pleas of the innocent maid's father, even though the latter was prepared to offer the chieftain a gold statue of her weight and 81 male elephants. The short poem uses all the gruesome details to make the heart-rending plea effective. This is the poem. Mother, would you go to the depths of hell like the woman-killing Nannan, who rejected the offer of 81 elephants besides a gold icon of her weight, and sentenced to death the bright-browed lady that while bathing ate the green mango that came floating? She hasn't slept in this inimical town since the day the smiling guest came. In a poem of 8 lines in Tamil, the story of the sin of Nannan is described in 5 lines, and in the remaining part, the mother is requested to be considerate to the girl who has been spending sleepless nights in a hostile place where it has become difficult to meet her lover. By a chance discovery of the stone inscriptions In the Masani Amman temple in Anamalai, more details about this tragic event have come to light. From the temple literature, we learn that it was built in memory of an innocent girl put to death by Nannan, the chieftain of Anamalai, one of the divisions of the ancient Kongunadu. Anamalai was also known as Nannan Oor, Nannan's place, and Umbarkadu. The stone inscriptions state that Nannan raised a mango tree on the bed of Aliyar and proclaimed that none should cut the branches or fruit of the tree. A young girl who went to take bath in the river ate a fruit that came floating in the river and was sentenced to death by Nannan. The girl's father was ready to give Nannan a statue made of gold equivalent to the weight of the girl and 81 male elephants as a compensation for his daughter's violation of the ruler's order. But Nannan, turning a deaf ear to the importunities of the father, killed her. A statue of the girl was later installed at the cremation ground and people began to worship it. The girl was adored as a goddess throughout the Kongu region. As the statue was prostrate, it was called Masani, that is Mayana Sayani. The story is immortalized in local folklore. It is surprising to learn that even now devotees throng the temple on Tuesdays and Fridays. The three versions of the story, as recorded in the folklore, in the local folklore, in the stone inscription, and in the poem by one of the greatest Sangam poets, perfectly agree with regard to most of the details. We don't know in what chronological order the three versions came into being, but since many of the poems included in the Sangam anthologies are about 2000 years old, Tamil scholars feel that the incident might have taken place in 500 BC. Now the reader's curiosity may naturally be aroused to find out more about the historical character called Nannan and to look for other references to him in Sangam poems. Unfortunately, Tamil history doesn't come to our help and the Sangam corpus refers to more than one Nannan, causing a lot of confusion. From the little information that we can glean, it appears that Nannan, notorious for the murder of a girl, was the ruler of Pali, Param and Perambu hills, and his might struck terror into the hearts of his enemies. That Nannan was associated with the scandalous murder is evident from another short poem in Purananuru, which is in the form of Perundalai Chattan's reply to the prince, Ilavichiko, who asks him why the poet chose to ignore him when he was in the company of another prince called Ilam Kandirako. The poet says, I didn't greet you because you are Nannan's descendant and your doors are closed to the poets, whereas his ancestors are known for their munificence. One more cruel deed of Nannan is mentioned by Paranar himself in a poem included in Nattinai. This is in the form of an address by the friend of a girl to the latter's unfaithful husband, who had strayed away but has now come back and prays for acceptance. He is chided for his misconduct in terms he can never forget. This is the poem. Chieftain, you come to us like the beetle which, tired of the long-leafed thari, gets inebriated by the honey from the flowers that adorn the tresses dark as the night. You seem to care more for my plea than for the heart of this well-decked, supple-shouldered lady that knows not the art of keeping her man tied to her. Your conduct is more callous than the deed of Nannan, who wields a javelin that drove away his enemies, who rode fleet-footed horses with handsome manes, who had a rope made of the tresses of the widows of the kings killed by him. I will of course forget your deeds. Half in jest and half in earnest, she tells him that he has behaved like the merciless Nannan, who after a wild slaughter of his enemies got a thick robe made out of the tresses removed from the heads of their widows. When one comes across more than one reference to Nannan in Paranar's poems, one wonders if it is a tribute to or condemnation of Nannan's brute force. The story goes that a powerful clan called Velir, seeking safety, kept their properties under Nannan's custody in his place Pali. Paranar capitalizes on this piece of information in a poem in Purananuru. A frustrated lover, finding it difficult to meet his lady love, tells his heart. Here is the poem. You don't agree with me, my heart, when I say she is not for us, though you know she is more inaccessible than all the gold kept by the Velir in Pali, the closely guarded city of Nannan.